Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to the another session on JMeter tutorial. So in the today's session, we are going to learn what are functions and variables and how we can use those in JMeter. So if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and also click on the bell icon to get the updates on the latest videos. So let's get started. So first of all, we will see what are functions. So let me write it. Functions. So what are functions? Functions are the values that can populate fields of any sampler or other element in a test tree. So I'm going to write also values that can populate fields of any sampler or other test element in a test tree. So let's see the syntax of the function which JMeter uses. So syntax is going to be, you need to start with a dollar symbol and start the curly brace, and you need to provide 2 times underscore. So it's the first time underscore, this is the second time underscore, and then you need to give the function name, and after that you need to provide the parameters. These are parameter 1, 2, etc. Okay, so you need to give the function name. Let me correct it. You need to give the function name and you need to provide the parameters as well. So what are these parameters? Parameter 1 and parameter 2, etc. So these are the parameters which are passed to the function when the function is called. So let me write it also. Parameters are passed to the function when the function is called. Okay, and these parameters vary from function to function. I mean the number of parameters or the type of parameters vary from the function to function. It might be also possible that the function doesn't require any parameter. So in that case when the function doesn't require any parameter, so in that case the syntax of the function is, again you need to start with a dollar symbol, curly brace start, 2 times underscore, and you need to give the function name. That's it. You need to close the curly braces. Okay, so in this way you can use the syntax if the function doesn't contain any parameter. Okay, and after this point, what is the next one? So the function names are case sensitive. So I'm going to write case sensitive. Okay, so these are all about the functions. Now before moving into detail into the functions, let's also see what are variables in JMeter. So what are variables? Variables are the containers which holds a value. Now suppose you have assigned a value to a variable and in future you want to use that value. So how will you use that? You can call that variable which contains that value. So I'm going to write variables are the containers which hold values. Okay, and the variables are local to a thread group. So what I mean by that we will see in few minutes when we will be doing a demo in JMeter. So I'm going to write variables are local to threads, and like functions, variables are also case sensitive. Okay, so variables are case sensitive. Now that we are familiar with the functions and variables, let's look into some of the functions which JMeter has provided us to use. So let's see what are the functions. So let's see the function names what we have. So the first function which we are going to look into is the log function, which is used to log a message. So I'm going to write used to log a message, and the syntax of this log function is like, you need to start with the dollar symbol, curly brace start, double time underscore, and you need to give the function name, that is the log function, and here you need to give the message which you want to log. Maybe I want to have message as hello JMeter. So this message will be logged. Okay, so let's see this in JMeter. So for that, let's move to JMeter and let's create a thread group. And inside the thread group, I will add an HTTP request. So this is a request I have added. Let's give a server name. Let's give a server name like google.com. And let's add a listener also to see the result. So I'm going to add view result in tree listener. So now we want to see this log function. So how we can see that? Let's copy it from here. Let's copy it from here, and inside this HTTP request name, I'm going to paste that function. So so this is the function. I have pasted it over here, and now I will do the execution and we'll see the results. So first of all, let me save it. I'm going to save as functions and variables. Let's save it, and now let's do the execution and let's see the result. So you can see from here the message which we wanted to log, that is the hello JMeter, that got displayed over here. So if I add another thread group, let me add another thread group and let me give the similar server name. And let's clear this result. The only difference between these two samplers is in the name of that sampler. So I have provided here the HTTP request as default, and here I have provided the function. And if we do the execution, you can see these two results. So the first one is this one. So the request and the response will be the same for both these samplers. You can see the change in the label name over here. So how it got changed? Because I have provided the function inside the name. So in this way you can use the log function. Now JMeter has provided a lot of functions, and all the function has several parameters. So you don't need to memorize all of them because JMeter has made your task easy. So how we can look into the functions and what parameter those function uses? So for that you need to move to tools, and here you can see function helper dialog. So click on that and it provides a list of functions available over here. So let's take the log function again. Let's see that log function. So I have taken this log function, and now if you want to look into the details of the log function, what you need to do? You need to click on help. And once you click on help, you have this JMeter user manual with you along with the log description. So all the description of this log function is available over here. So you can look into that from here. And now let's move ahead and let's see what else we need to do here. So we have chosen the function log, and these all are the parameters. It says function parameters. So these all are the parameters which log function accepts, and we need to provide the values over here. So what is the first parameter? So the first parameter is string to be logged. So what string do you want to log? So I'm going to write, let's take another string. Let's take welcome to JMeter. Okay, and the next parameter is log level. So what is this log level? So what log level do you want to have? So the default is info. Let's take the default one only. We'll see what is this log level in few minutes when we will do the execution. And the next option with us is the throwable text. So what is this throwable text? It creates a throwable to pass to the logger, and it is optional. So let's not take it. Let's take only the string which we need to pass. And once you have provided all the values of the parameters which you require, what you need to do next, you need to click on generate and copy to clipboard. So once you click on that, your function syntax, the JMeter will generate it for you, so you don't need to remember all the function name, the parameters. You can select from here, you can give the parameters as well from here. So it has been copied to clipboard, and the result of the function is, it also describes the result of the function, that is welcome to JMeter, since I have provided the string as welcome to JMeter. So let's close this one and let's give that function in my next HTTP request. So this is my next function, and let's clear this one and let's do the execution again. So my first result is with hello JMeter and along with the double quotes, and the second one is the next string which we have provided, that is welcome to JMeter. And since this log function is used to log message, so if you go to options and if you click on log viewer, you can see over here it has been displayed over the logs. You can see here this hello JMeter and welcome to JMeter got displayed in the log. And what was that log level? So the log level as default is info. We have not changed that one, so it has displayed the log level as info. So in this way you can use this log function. Now let's look into some other functions which JMeter has provided. So for that, let's create a new HTTP request and let's take the similar server name. We are going to focus much on the functions. So let's close this log. So go to options and disable this log viewer, and let's take some other function as well. So again move to tools, function helper dialog, and let's take the function as BeanShell. So what is this BeanShell function? What does it do? So what BeanShell function do? We can pass any script in the BeanShell function, and the BeanShell function evaluates the script passed to it and it returns the result. So let me write it down over here also. BeanShell function. BeanShell function. So what it do? It evaluates the script passed to it and returns the result. So let's see that. Let's see the syntax. So the expression, what expression you want to evaluate? Suppose I do want to do the multiplication 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6, 7, 8. I want to do this multiplication. So I have passed this expression which I want to evaluate, and name of the variable in which you want to store the result, and it is optional. So we will see this in few minutes. As of now, let's take only this mandatory parameter. We will see this in few minutes. So let's click on generate and copy to clipboard. So this is the function syntax which got generated. So let's paste it over here as well. Let's paste it over here and let's close this one. And here you can see the result of the function is, so it provided the result function as well. So let's close this one and let's paste that function syntax over here, and let's disable these two functions. Let's disable these two requests since we have already seen this. And in the view result tree, let's clear the result and let's start the execution now. So what you saw in the label name, you can see the result of the function. This was the function which we created and we have provided an expression over here. So the result is displayed in the label. Okay, since we have provided the function over here in the HTTP request name, we have provided, so it got displayed over here. Now let's look into detail this BeanShell function. So again, if you go to the function helper dialog, and again if you see this BeanShell function, so what expression we had taken? So let's take some another expression. Let's take 234 star 67, and this is the first parameter and this is the second parameter. So what the second parameter says, name of the variable in which you want to store the result. So earlier in this case, let me show you, in this case we have not taken any variable where the result can be stored. Okay, now we are going to take a variable where the result of this expression is going to be stored, and I am going to take the variable name as variable1, and let's click on generate and copy. So now this is the syntax of the function BeanShell. So earlier it was this, and now this variable name, that is the variable1 which we have taken, is displayed. So let's close this one and let's add this function as well. So I'm going to take another HTTP request. I'm not overriding so that we are able to see the difference, and let's give the function name over here, and let's take the similar server name, and let's clear this result and let's do the execution. So the execution is similar as of now. The first one displayed the multiplication of this value, and the second one displayed the multiplication of this value. So we can utilize this variable as well. How we can utilize that? Let me show you. Let's add another sampler. Let's add another sampler HTTP request. Let's give the server name. And what I am going to do now, this variable1 is a variable. Okay, this is a variable name. So we can use this variable. Okay, so how we can use that? In the HTTP request, I am going to provide this variable name, that is variable1. So what was the syntax of the variable? You can see from here. Okay, I have not provided the syntax. Let me add the syntax over here. So the syntax to use a variable is like, you need to start dollar symbol, curly brace start, and the variable name, and the curly brace end. So this is the syntax of the variable, and we will look into it in the JMeter. So to put the dollar symbol, curly brace start, and the variable name I need to provide. So what is the variable name in my case? My variable name is variable1. Let's put it, let's copy it from here and let's paste it over here. And I can write over here also, variable is, I can write as result is, let me write result is this one. So now let's clear this result. Now what is going to happen? The first one is simple. It's not going to store the result inside any variable. And the second one, it's going to store the result of this expression inside variable1. And the next HTTP request with us is, we have provided that variable name over here in the syntax of the variable. And let's see how the execution goes. Let's do the execution, and you can see this is the result. This is the result from this one, and the second one is the result from this one, and the third one which we have created just now, what it says, result is, this is the static data, result is the is the static data, and after that it has provided the variable. You can see this value and this value are the same. So what JMeter did, the BeanShell evaluated the expression and put it inside this variable1, and we got this inside the variable syntax. Okay, so this is about the BeanShell function. And since we have seen here variables are local to thread, so we will see this now. So what does it mean? Now suppose let's create a new thread group. So this is the thread group 1 and this is the thread group 2, and here let's add a HTTP request. So I'm going to give the server name. Okay, and let's keep this view result tree listener under test plan. Let's cut it from here and let's paste it over here. So what we have now. Now we need to give the name of the HTTP request. So what I want to give, so the similar one, the similar result is, and the variable I want to give over here. So what I mean, since the variables are local to thread group, and since this variable 1 belongs to thread group 1 and it doesn't belong to thread group 2, and in thread group 2 I have used this variable 1, it's not going to provide us any value. So let's see this, let's do the execution and let's see the result. So let's disable this one. We will have this request, the expression will be evaluated and it will be stored to variable 1, and the next request will display the value of variable 1 along with the static data result is. And once we come to thread group 2, what will happen, this will not display the value which was displayed earlier in this request, because the variables are local to threads. Okay, so let's do the execution and let's see the result. So you can see this is the first request from here, and the second one is, the result is, this is the static data and the variable 1. So this one is from this request and this result is along with the value is from this request. So what is the case now? This variable 1 is undefined for this thread group 2, and JMeter is not going to throw any error for the undefined variables. It's going to use this variable as along with the syntax. Okay. So what we saw that variables are local to thread groups. Okay. So now let's move ahead and let's see some other functions. So the other function which we are going to see is, let me write it down. We are going to see the time function. So let's see how we can use that in JMeter. So let's disable this thread group now. Let's disable these requests as well. And let's add a new sampler. I'm going to give the server name. And let's see the time function. So if you click on tools, function helper dialog, and you can see from here the time function. So let's take the time function, and in what format do you want your time to be? So if you provide optional, then what will happen? Let's click on generate and copy to clipboard. So it will provide the time in milliseconds. If you want to have any specific format, you can provide it over here. Suppose I want in the format dd mm yyyy and the name of the variable in which you want to store the result. This is optional, and again the result will be stored inside a variable which we have seen earlier also in the BeanShell. So let's skip this one and let's click on generate and copy to clipboard. So this is the function syntax which got generated. So let me paste it over here as well, syntax, and let's close this one and let's use it over here. And let's do the execution and let's see the result. Let's clear this one. So you can see the label is displayed at the as the current time. Okay, so in this way you can use the time function along with the syntax which you want to be reflected in the time. Okay, so in this way you can use the time function. Let's look in some other function. We have the counter function as well. So what the counter function do? It generates a new number each time it is called, starting from 1, and it gets incremented by +1 each time. So I'm going to write generates a new number each time it is called. Let me correct it. It generates a new number each time it is called, starting from 1, and it gets incremented every time by +1. Okay, so let's see this in JMeter. Now let's disable this time function as well, and let's add a new HTTP request, and let's give the server name similar one, and let's see the counter function now. So tools function helper dialog, and let's see the counter function. So what is this counter function? So if you want for each user to have own counter, you need to set this as true, and you can provide the name of the variable as well, which we have already seen in the BeanShell function. Let's click on generate and copy to clipboard. So this is the function syntax. Let's paste it over here, and let's give it inside the label as well. And now let's clear this one and let's do the execution. So it starts from 1, so it got displayed as 1, and it will be incremented every time. Since we have given the number of threads as 1 and loop count as 1, so only 1 got printed. Let's give the loop count as 10 and let's see what happens. So let's clear this one and let's do the execution again. So the execution got started, and what is the result? So you can see the result got incremented, the labels got incremented every time it got executed. It started from 1 and it got incremented by +1 every time. So this was about the counter function. So there are a lot of functions which JMeter has provided. You can see from here there are a multiple of functions available over here. So you can use these functions according to your requirement in the project. And if you have any query, please put in the comment section below and I will try to solve your queries. Okay, that's all for this session. Thank you. Have a nice day.